So I see Big Al Panecchia there, and
Yeah, it's here.
Ron Waddy's here, and Christiana Landolt. And Sean, let's get going.
Thanks, Sensei. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Punch Kick Choke Chat. My name is Sean Benson. I'm one of your hosts. It is 8:30 p.m. Toronto time. I've been home for a few weeks in a row now, and God, does it feel nice. And I'm so excited to be chatting tonight with Professor Dan Guillemette. Now, this is somebody I'm always jealous when Sensei Dauphin does the intros and he's trained with the person and I haven't. This is somebody who I've had the privilege of training on their mat as a student of theirs at the Capital Conquest event for I think 3 years in a row now. I always seek out his mat. I always leave with something incredibly, what would the word be? Forward moving. There's always just a key or a note that I can take forward. And the thing I love, Professor, I don't want to spend too much time, but is it's always something conceptual that I can apply to more than one thing. Sometimes people teach a move, and if you're not in that position, that move doesn't apply. But you always teach something that's not just specific, but also a broad concept that I've always been able to take into my roles for months after. And I just want to say how much I appreciate that. And we always start the show with a little bit of a question. And, for you, it's one that we'll get into, and we'll talk to Sensei Suino a little bit about it too. But you have expertise in BJJ, in Kanryu Jiu Jitsu, in Ipai and Jiu Jitsu, and you've also got some Judo. And I just wanted to ask you, you have a really broad exposure to different aspects of Jiu Jitsu as well as Judo. What do you consider to be the sort of strengths and shortcomings of each in relation to the other?
I think they all help each other out several extents. I find that the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu helps to give the control, which makes it easier to apply a lot of the self-defense techniques from the Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. Whereas when you start applying a pressure point or applying different techniques, the control I get from the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu makes it more difficult for the person to escape, in my opinion. I think the Judo, obviously in competition for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, we start standing up. So obviously the knowing how to fall properly, how to off balance someone, which would allow me to enter either to a judo throw or a wrestling takedown, is really good. With judo, we have to be a little bit careful though. When you do a throw, a lot of the throws expose your back. So if I throw you on your back, I get ippon in judo. But if I throw you on your back, but you stay on my back, then I get 2 points. You get 4 for my back, and I'm in danger of being strangled. So it's just different things that have to, as soon as you change the rules of what the engagement is, it changes the possible benefits and I guess negatives,
Um,
if that makes any sense.
it makes all the sense in the world. That was such a concise answer, and I followed along completely, and I appreciate it. Before we go to Sensei Suino, who's got experience in multiple versions of Jiu-Jitsu, uh, if you had to pick one, you only get to save one on the life raft. Which are you taking forward and why?
Are you talking to me? I thought you said you were going to go to Sensei
Oh, I'm going
Suino.
to go to him next. Before we go to him, he'll get the same.
Myself, my personal preference. So BJJ, I've been doing it for 33 years now. I've boxed, I've kickboxed, I've done a little bit of Muay Thai, I've done MMA. If I could only pick one specifically for my body type, I think it would be Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And now that I'm getting older, I feel like I'm not as quick, I'm not as explosive. So a lot of the attributes that I'm losing over time won't affect me as much in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as it would in the other ones. And on top of that, the way that I'm built, I've got a really long upper body and very short limbs. So a lot of target, no reach, and a low center of gravity. So I feel like the grappling arts lend very well to my body type. So in my case, anyways, I would definitely prefer BJJ, or I'm starting to call it GJJ, geriatric jiu-jitsu.
Ah, well, let me break that open one little bit more because we're not going to go around the horn with everybody here. But why do you feel that that does suit aging in a way? I mean, for people who don't necessarily know all the differences, but what is it about grappling around on the ground where 23-year-olds can blow out their meniscus that you actually think suits your geriatric years?
Just it doesn't require speed. doesn't require explosiveness. If I maintain connection, I can slow the other person down. Whereas with striking, my reaction time and my speed make a big difference, as well as my cardio. There's certain strengths that you keep, and I don't remember the technical terms, but as you age, my ability to hold on for long periods of time and be strong holding on and maintain that connection doesn't seem to have changed as much. Whereas my fast twitch muscles, my ability to explode has definitely gone down. So at least that's why I believe it makes a difference, at least for me.
No, I appreciate that. I mean, he's younger than all of us on the call here, but Gordon Ryan talks about how the fact that his game is slowing people down, so his game won't slow down much as he gets
Yeah.
older. Only time will tell, but it's actually quite why he believes that he'll be able to maintain his abilities relative to others because it's not a game predicated on youth.
Yeah.
Sensei Suino, let me go to you as we open this question up. You know, you've got the judo, which obviously includes ground game. You've got BJJ, and you've got the Japanese jiu-jitsu. What do you think are the strengths, and what do you think might be shortcomings of one in relation to the other?
Uh, Man, oh man, man. Well, I think judo has the most dynamic takedowns, if you will, and it trains for speed and athleticism. And so if you aren't geriatric yet, unlike Sensei Guillemette and myself, you can deploy judo techniques at great speed and leverage. The athleticism of modern sport judo players is just unparalleled. It's absolutely incredible. Um, and what I like about Japanese jiu-jitsu is the physics and geometry. I like the
Mm,
theoretical part of it. I really like going deep and understanding why something's efficient, why it works, why it doesn't, the physiology and anatomy. It's all fascinating to me. But in my experience with Japanese jiu-jitsu, it's not deployed in a realistic manner. There's not really a sport version. It's not typically, I mean, other styles may be different, but my exposure in Japan was that it was pretty systematic, kata-based sort of, and uh, and so you understood the theories well, but we didn't ever apply them. And obviously, you can apply a wrist lock at full speed, then your practice ends quickly.
yeah,
What I love about BJJ is sort of applied physics, or I like to think of it these days as unraveling a coil of DNA and exploring one little piece of it in a very safe environment. Because if you have a sensible opponent, that you don't fall and you can tap out, and so as long as people aren't crazy, you can do some really crazy and complicated stuff with it. Uh,
absolutely.
so I don't know if I answered what's better or worse. I think they're all amazing. But part two of your question was if I had to give them all up but one. Uh,
Yeah,
for me, my first love is judo, right? I started when I was 8 years old, and although I can't, I'll take whatever since the Guillemette said and multiply it times 10 for judo. For me, my explosiveness and speed is really diminished, but the fun in judo play still there, just like it ever was.
love that. Hachi Legacy, I'm not going to ask you which art you would keep of the sword and the karate, but I am going to ask you because I thought that Professor Guillemette brought up a really interesting point just about adjusting the way he's performing and the things he's realized he holds on to, like his grip and control and the things he's lost. What did you find as a fighter were the things that as you were aging had to change and actually might have changed in a good way?
Well, karate is the reaction time that that he was talking about. Like, in order to throw a punch, it takes less than a quarter of a second. So um, I'm 80 years old, and I'm not far off of that. If you practice properly, if you use your hips, and I've been doing the same punch since I was 22 years old, and I'm 80. The same punch. It's never changed. I can, I, the thing about age is that you can see the technique starting from the body, what the person is going to do. You don't see it on its way. So with experience becomes that advantage. So I don't think, for me, I don't think that because I still work out. I just worked out last night a little bit. Um, I don't find that I lost enough. Like, what are we talking about? Being in the Olympics? Like, I take karate, and I wish I was an Olympian, but I'm not. So when I take karate for self-defense, most people out there that are going to attack me are not going to know me, and they're not going to be martial artists. So I find that one good, solid, fast punch somewhere around a quarter of a second, I can still do that. So I don't know what else to tell you. If I was rolling on the ground with somebody, I'd be dying. Somebody would kill me, right? But they have to get me there first. That's all I can say.
Well, I really appreciate that, Hanshi. Before we go to Sensei Dauphin, I just want to say that, you know, I like what you said about what are we talking about with the Olympics, because I know my friends who do timed race type things like triathlons or marathons. Many of them peaked in their 20s, early 30s, and then they're only ever getting slower. But one thing I found with martial artists is what does peaking look like in your 20s? You don't even have the breadth of experience or knowledge to be able to peak. So you might have a fast twitch speed that you don't have at 50, but I just love the way you said that, because unless you're talking about literally one little measurable thing, everything else actually expands in my experience and in the experience of what I'm witnessing with my teachers on this call.
Can I ask, can I
Yeah.
ask a question about the crowd stuff? Are you allowed to poke guys in the eyes and kick them in the groin and stuff like that? In the street, you are. Hello?
Yeah, well, that's right. And, like, you didn't say anything that's wrong. That's right. That's why it's quiet. Nobody's disagreeing with you.
Yeah.
Sensei Dauphin, where do you want to go?
I just wanted to say that I found it interesting that Professor Guillemette said BJJ is the thing, and since Suino said judo is the thing, and since Legacy said karate is the thing, and interestingly, they're all masters in those particular martial arts. So of course, those are the things that they're going to feel most safe with. They have the most strategies to keep themselves going. They have the most strategies to stop a younger, stronger, faster person with less experience from harming them or hurting them. Which is a lesson for anybody watching this call. Maybe master something instead of doing all kinds of things. Because what you just heard is three people say, you know, the thing I've done for a long time, I can continue to do it and I can keep myself safe while I'm doing it and I can continue to train it. And I don't know, if you do 752 things, that's probably not going to be the answer you get from that person.
Yeah, agreed.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And then Sensei Dauphin, do you want to add anything? I mean, in terms of aging through the arts, like
Yeah, so the thing I would say about karate is, if I fight with Robert, he's way faster than me. Like, I mean, in a karate sense, right? I'm not saying that I'm slow, as Sense Legacy saying. He's way faster, like as far as him picking his leg up, and he's at that age, right? He's 32, 33 years old. He's lightning fast and strong. He's been doing karate since he was 5. But where I'm still faster than him is in my reaction time. And to me, that's the real speed that you need, is the speed between your brain and movement. Um, Not necessarily how fast you can move your arms and legs. And the longer you train until you get to the foothills of senility, if you still got your mental acuities, you probably still can react fairly quickly.
thanks, Sensei Dauphin. Is there anything you want to add before we go to our introductions, Professor Guillemette?
Yeah, just that that's one of the first things that you see going in professional athletes in mixed martial arts, where multiple martial arts are going, is that reaction time is what seems to go down. And again, I don't have anything against any of the other martial arts. Back when I was doing Taekwondo, I was never very good at Taekwondo. My record in boxing was pretty good, but it was more due to to speed and physical abilities that I had at the time as opposed to skill. Whereas I feel, and again, with all the injuries that I have now, it puts me at a bigger disadvantage. A lot of the judo throws I have trouble doing now because I lost partial use of my right arm due to a neck injury. So being able to keep the person connected on my strong side for a lot of my throws are difficult. So again, I'm not knocking anything about the specific sport. I was speaking specifically about what I thought was best for myself.
Appreciate that.
Nobody took it that way either, Coach. It would make
Yeah.
sense that
Yeah.
your art is BJJ. That would make sense to us. Nobody took it that you were degrading any of the other arts.
No, I just wanted to try and clarify that.
Yeah. Many people think that when you're taking a martial art is to fight other martial artists, but what are the chances of that going to be in a self-defense situation, right? It's likely just going to be some common street thug or something like that who has a baseball bat, and that's his or her courage. We can all beat them, right? So in the art.
I think the best thing that I learned as far as in the street is concerned is probably in judo learning how to fall, because I think I've had more incidents falling on ice than I have gotten into fights outside of the gym.
Ah,
Mhm.
I mean, if you're Canadian, I don't care how many fights you win, that's still true. Ladies and
And
gentlemen,
in the street, I'd probably just hit him with my car. So
um, that's the first time we've had car martial arts brought up. I like it. And we could do that seatbelt grappling they do. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Punch Kick Choke Chat. Like I said, my name is Sean Benson. I'm one of your hosts. If you're watching us here on the Zoom channel in real time, we are so happy you're here. You're part of this living history that we're so honored to create with you. And we want your questions for either Professor Guillemette or for anything we're talking about in and around topics he's brought up or are stimulated by him. And if you're listening synchronously, you're listening later or you're watching later on YouTube or podcasts, we're really happy you're here too. Hit the subscribe, hit the like, share with your friends, get vicious in the comments. Or you know what? There's enough vitriol in the world this week. Let's do nice comments. Say what you like about what's going on. Next week, get back to the vitriol. But this week will be a little band-aid for some of the stuff out there. And it's my privilege every week to introduce my co-hosts. And with no disrespect to Sensei Dauphin and Hanchi Legacy, who are the two teachers I've had for 32 years. And Sensei Dauphin and I, we're brothers, and Hanchi Legacy and I are brothers, and we've spent this time in this life together. But Sensei Nicholas Suino, it was his birthday this week. And so I'm going to leave it to Sensei Dauphin to say anything he would like about Sensei Suino. We'll throw it to Sensei Suino as well, and then we'll introduce our guest.
Thanks, Sean. I'm happy to do that. If you're not aware, he turned 65. Interestingly, when I teased him on Tuesday morning and said, "Hey, guess what? You can buy your breakfast off the back menu of the Denny's menu now." Right? But the one thing I also want to say to Sensei Suino is when I went to my BJJ class, I mentioned to Coach Naddison, "Oh, it's Sensei Suino's birthday," and he said, "Oh, how old is he going to be?" And I said, "He's 65 today." And he goes, "No, like, don't screw around with me. How old is he going to be?" I said, "He's going to be 65 today." And he's like, he goes, "Honestly, Randy, I thought he was younger than you." Right? So,
Victory! I can retire now.
um, uh, I've got some words prepared for Saturday, but the one thing I want to say is, people will complain about suffering, right? Like when it's thrust upon them. The Sensei Suino is a person who seeks out his own suffering. He seeks out his own suffering, and then when suffering hits you in life, it's much easier for you to deal with it. And the suffering that Sensei Suino has brought upon himself for Saturday is he is going to do 15 rounds, 15 3-minute rounds of Iaido, followed by I talked him out of his first thought. I talked him into 15 rounds of 2 minutes stand up doing karate fighting. And then he's going to do 15 rounds, 3-minute rounds of randori, judo randori. and then he's gonna top it all off with 23-minute rounds of rolling on the ground. And he didn't invite like nobodies to come and do this with him. It's like he's going to be fighting a whole bunch of black belts and doing this with a bunch of very high level martial artists. And one thing I want to say, if you're planning to come, Sensei Legacy, Sensei Benson, and I are all going to be there. And you better keep Sensei Suino safe if you're coming to train with him, because I can promise you that if you don't, there will be consequences on the spot for not keeping Sensei Suino safe. It's his day. It's about him. I want him to suffer. He likes to see people suffer. I want to see him suffer. And then I want to give him a big hug at the end of it. And I'm so proud that he's in my top five. You are the sum of your five closest friends, and he's in that list.
Thank you, Sensei Dauphin. Sensei Suino, anything you want to say? This is your first time on air since your birthday, and it's a significant one.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Listen, I'm so blessed. We all work very hard. People like us who've been in the martial arts this long, we work really, really hard physically. And of course, to be able to sustain dojos or that kind of thing, I recognize the work that goes in. We're also blessed by a fair amount of luck to be able to do what we do at our age. And that's kind of why I'm doing this, is to celebrate the fact that this won't be Olympic, caliber rounds. I'm grateful that you asked people to help take care of me, and I will ask them to do that as well. But what a blessing to be at this age, and be able to do this, and I hope it inspires other people to recognize that so many of those self-imposed milestones are nonsense. If you sleep well, hydrate well, take good supplements, eat well, have good relationships, exercise, you can do things that most people think are impossible. And all of us on this call do that on a regular basis. So yeah, I'm just going to celebrate that and count the years, and hopefully it'll go well. I'm sure it will.
Well, I'm going to be very brief. We do want to say a little something, and pardon us, Professor Guillemette, but I showed my dad a photo of you today lifting kettlebells. And I said, how old do you think this guy is? And again, this isn't about your youth. It's about the role model you've created as a lifetime martial artist that I believe is your vitality. And
Mm.
he goes, well, he's definitely younger than you. I'd say between 40 and 45. So that's what you got from the old man.
Mm-hmm.
Hanshi, is there anything you want to say about Sensei Suino on his birthday before we go back to our guest?
Back to the show.
It's a special day.
We met him, picked him out of a crowd of um, masters and Iaido practitioners. First of all, I was impressed by his sensei. And because he lives in Japan, I had to make a choice of who I would want to teach me EI. And he was the guy. He, next to Sensei Yamaguchi, he it was like his shadow. And I'm still odd when I watch him do EI. It's like 30 some years later, and he's a great martial artist. He's a great swordsman. I, I can't express that enough. When I watch him, I'm awed by it, almost spellbound, watching how he does that so perfectly. It's a good description sometimes for me.
Appreciate it, Hanshi. Let's come back to you, Professor Guillemette, and thank you for indulging us a little. We're very much in love and enamored of each other on this show, but it's your time now. So the question we always like to start with after a provocative-ish opening question is, what was it like growing up for you, and what brought you into your first martial arts environment?
My parents put me in martial arts. I had too much energy, and I think it was either find a way for me to expend some of that energy or maybe kill me. I'm not sure which.
How old were you at that point?
I was put in judo when I was 6,
Okay.
and then I started boxing as well when I was 8. So I continued to do those till I was about 14. So I received my brown belt in judo at 14 and did my 13th boxing match as well.
I'm a little tired. I had COVID this week. I'm better now, but I want to go back to Sensei Dauphin to introduce you properly. My apologies, because everybody needs to know who they're talking to. And since it, Ofan, thanks for the little nudge on text.
No problem, Sean. I'm happy to help. Uh, Professor Guillemette is a fourth degree black belt in the IBJJF. That's a very big, legitimate Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu association. He's certified there in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as a black belt, fourth degree black belt. That's a super high rank in BJJ. Like BJJ is known for making people stay back for long periods of time. 4-3 black belt is a super high rank in BJJ. Um, he's the owner and head instructor of Center Evolution in Gatineau, Quebec. He has over 4 decades of training, as we know now. Started when he was 6 years old. He holds high ranks across multiple disciplines, including a sixth dan in Jiu-Jitsu Ken-Ryu, as I said, and also a fourth dan in IPPAI and Jiu-Jitsu and certification in Valley Tudo. His background also extends to boxing, judo, taekwondo, and this just makes him an extremely well-rounded martial artist. I like to provide some thoughts as well. Uh, whether it was in Levy or Ottawa. We've had dinner together a couple of times, been in the same room, we had many, many conversations about uh, different things. I've taught all of us actually since Legacy, since Suino and I, we've all shared the teaching floor together, so taught different things. Um, Professor Guillemette and I both have a really snazzy jacket in common now, a red jacket that says Canada
Yes, sir.
the side. Since Suino didn't get one of those, he got the one that says USA on it. So um, um, I
Very
also
good.
want to say I know one thing about Professor Guillemette. He's a dad. He's really proud of his kids. Doesn't miss an opportunity to talk about them, and he talks about them well as he should. Um, and like Sean Benson. I have also been on Professor Guillemets mats like 2 or 3 times. When I am not teaching at the same time as him, I'm always excited to run over to his mat. I've had his hands on me and felt him flip me around and put me in different maneuvers. And I will say that if you don't think so, he's definitely strong enough to slow you down. Okay.
Yes.
He's definitely strong enough, and his technique is good enough that he's going to slow you down for sure. He's probably going to slow you down in a painful way, is what I'm going to tell you. Um, we're really proud to have you on here today, Coach. I'm looking forward to this conversation. And as we were talking about before we started, I'm really looking forward to seeing you again in November, being on the mats with you, socializing with you, having a meal with you. It's going to be a fun weekend, and we're going to have a fun night tonight.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Looking forward to seeing everybody. It's a nice get together to see people from around the world that you don't you wouldn't normally get a chance to meet.
Absolutely. So
And
again, pardon me for my distraction earlier. So, you're six, you get into that judo world, and then pardon me, bring us through that next little phase as you start to get introduced to your other arts as well.
also, that was back in Northern Ontario. So around that age, I had stopped training because we had moved to the Ottawa area. And during that period, I actually had to take a small sabbatical as our lifestyle changed a little bit. Uh, so then when I finished high school, I went back to martial arts. I started in Taekwondo and did that up to my red belt, I believe it was. Yeah, it was my red belt. And I hurt my hip stupid enough during a side kick stretch. I felt something pop and my leg went up another 6 inches, which I'm not really sure what happened there. Didn't give me a lot of pain, but I figured whatever it was, I'll let it heal. And I thought this doesn't make any sense. I thought, well, I'm letting that heal. I'll go back to judo and get my black belt in judo. And so went to the local judo club, and for some reason, I don't know. I feel like I rubbed the instructor the wrong way, where I seem to have come across as being arrogant, and I've never considered myself to be an arrogant person. We just didn't hit it off. So I ended up going to Ken Ryu instead, and started jiu-jitsu and kickboxing at the time, and just continued to progress from there.
Were you radically different as a young man? Because you're one of the most polite and honestly quite soft-spoken, pleasant people I've met.
No, he had asked me why I wanted to go back to judo, and I said, well, because I like sports and I'm physically very strong for my size. And he said, well, what makes you think that you're strong for your size? It's like, well, anybody that I've ever trained with has told me that I'm very strong for my size. And I don't know, I guess maybe however that came out, maybe it came out as being arrogant. Um, I don't know. I, I'd like to take responsibility for taking the blame of whatever happened. But I don't know. It just somehow we just didn't click. And sometimes maybe people just don't click. I don't know. That's the way it is. Gave me the opportunity to meet Henchy John, and that opened up a lot of doors. I was able to meet a lot of different people, learned a lot of different things, and so that was the beginning of the Ken Ryu journey.
Well, I appreciate
And
that humility. We can't speak badly about that guy, but we're lucky because it brought you into the group that we've met you through. So, talk about how that felt, that transition, um, coming from Northern Ontario, coming from another art in Ottawa. How did that all go?
well, everything's just a journey, right? So it's just the next challenge. So everything that happens to you in life is just the next challenge. So my wife is the one we were dating at the time. She was the one who pushed me to get back into martial arts because I guess I must have talked about martial arts a lot. So she pushed me to get back into it, and got back into it maybe a little bit more than she would have liked. And and then when my daughter started school, I ended up speaking to Hanshi Terrien because I had to readjust my schedule. There's no way I would have made it from work back to Gatineau and then through the traffic both ways to get back on time for class. So I ended up studying under Mr. Sear at, I guess I would have been at brown belt moving forward. So with his blessing, of course. So that was
That
pretty
is,
much it. And I was doing a lot of grappling during the time that I was training with Mr. Sear as well. And then I was introduced to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I started doing seminars, going to learn through seminars in about 1992, I think it was. And then
So,
I don't remember what year it was that the Machados started coming to Ottawa to teach at some different schools as well in Kingston also. So I started doing seminars with them when they came down also.
and sorry, did you initially say you were or weren't doing seminars? You were doing regular class, or you were doing the seminars to supplement the class of with Sarah?
No, there were no BJJ instructors here at the time. Like there was nobody, so I had to travel to learn some of this stuff. And like I said, eventually, I think it was N1 Martial Arts in Ottawa started bringing down some of the Machado brothers, and there was a school in Kingston that was bringing them down as well. And I think that was right around the time when Jean-Jacques won the first Abu Dhabi, and right around that time, Egan was doing a seminar. I believe it was in Kingston, and Vagni Fabiano walked in. And Vagni is not the biggest man in the world, but the way he walked in, like his chest was puffed out, his arms were kind of wide, and he was walking in. And Egan's the biggest of the Machado brothers. So he sees Vagni walking in that way. He starts to laugh. He says, Vagni, get changed. Come and join us on the mat. So that's where I met Vagni. And I think I studied under Vagni for about 7 years before he ended up moving to Toronto. And Fabio Holanda took his place teaching in Montreal pretty much when Vagni left. So then continued studying under Fabio.
Hanshi, did you want to ask a question a little earlier?
yeah, it was you sort of get out of, when people. I just want to know where you originally left to move to Ottawa.
Oh, Timmins, Ontario.
Timmins? So were you
Yes.
born there?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Any reason why, sir?
Well, I thought looks to me like you have a French name, and I just want to know if you were born in Quebec, where you came from, and went to Ontario. And
Half the population of Timmins are pretty much francophone, so
are you in Quebec now?
I'm in Gatineau now. That's correct. I'm
Um,
assuming you are as well.
Pardon?
I'm assuming you are as well.
No, I live in London, just outside of London. But I lived in the Rimouski, Quebec, for a while. So I lived, in Quebec for a while, but that's why I'm nosy about it.
You said something in French earlier, and I thought I recognized a Quebec accent. That's why I assumed you were living in Quebec.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
So thank you.
Thank you, Hanshi. And
Well,
Professor, real quick question. I mean, you're talking about 1992, I think you said. Um,
Yeah.
Nobody is doing BJJ before 1993, and even then, that took a sec to catch with the UFC. So, what was it about you as a young man who, in many ways, saw the future?
I just like grappling. So I mean, even back when we were doing judo as a kid, I think we're like apes. We just enjoy like wrestling. You put two kids together, two young boys together, and it's just an innate thing. So I don't know. I just really enjoyed it. And there was somebody, I'm trying to remember, Mr. Marshall from Terrien was teaching some grappling there. I don't remember what year it was, but I think it was before that. And some of the classes that he had taught there, I really enjoyed. And so just when you hear about things that you like, you want to learn more about it. And so I just followed that and wanted to learn as much about it as I could. I felt like it was going to be something that was going to grow and become big. So I figured, well, may as well be at the beginning of it. And then you hear of all these people, how they say how hard it is and how hard it is on the ego. Like, I don't know, I was lucky enough to get into it before with, already with the background in judo and a little bit of wrestling in high school and stuff like that, where I already felt comfortable on the ground. So I don't know why people felt that it was so hard.
Right.
Coach, do you know,
Unless I roll with my son. When I roll my son, I understand where they're coming from.
Coach, do you know Professor Chet Schemelhorn in the United States by any chance?
It's hard to remember all the names, and again, I apologize with some of the issues with my memory. I had a stroke about 10 years ago, and that affected my memory quite a bit. So if I do know you, sir, and you're listening to this, I apologize if I didn't remember your name.
Well, in no way did I mean to put you on the spot there, Coach. I just was asking because when we had him on Punch Kick Choke Chat, he was talking about learning BJJ from like VHS tapes and then going into his barn with his and beating the crap out of his brother trying to remember the tapes, right? So it just, I thought of him when you were talking and thought, if they don't know each other, these two guys need to connect with each other and you guys would have some amazing conversation and training probably.
Yes, we probably have the same book collection that we had before the VHS tapes,
Uh,
Right.
and then the DVDs because we didn't have all of these internet sites.
Right.
Now there's so much information out there now that it's more infotainment than it is a learning tool in some ways. Unless you're disciplined enough to take the time to actually develop the skills of what you're learning, as opposed to just cramming more and more stuff into your head, I think.
I'd love you to break that concept open just a little more for people listening. You know, what do you think would be a way they could use it so that it's useful? And what do you think is the point at which it's becoming just something to watch, not something that's helping?
It's funny because some of my students would complain when somebody was really working on something for a period of time, where they felt like, oh, this person's boring to work with. All they do is this. Well, sometimes to really digest something, you need to do it for a period of time where you don't just understand it intellectually, but your body knows what to do without thinking. Because in real life, uh, it has to become a reflex. It has to become a reaction. The thinking process is almost eliminated under stress. So I feel like if you're going to learn something well before you jump to the next thing. And this new generation is so much luckier because there's so much good information that's available that wasn't available to us. It's just that they have to have the discipline where they're actually taking the time to try and develop those skills. So I believe the technique is like theory. The ability to apply the techniques without thinking is kind of developing the skills.
Really appreciate that. I
I'm
want
not
to
sure.
throw, sorry, go ahead.
Not sure what your thoughts are on the subject.
I actually want to come back around to that because I love what you just said, but I want to throw it to Sensei Dofan first for a comment that he has.
Okay. As a person who has very beginning grappling and BJJ skills, there's something that I often do, coach, and I'd love to hear your opinion on it. Maybe I should just stop doing this. So I might be looking for a little bit of a lesson here. And it involves the internet, YouTube specifically. So, um, and Professor Burrito's Jiu-Jitsu for Life Association, if you go to any of his clubs, this week we're all working on half guard. Well, like all the schools are working on half guard. So I'm not going to say I don't watch BJJ videos because I do, but what I try and do is just search out ones on half guard so that at least while I'm training that week, um, I'm getting some inspiration and looking at other body types doing it and what they're doing. And I try and tailor my searches to the specific lessons that are being taught that week. Is that a flaw? Should I stop doing that? Or what are your comments or thoughts on that?
How do you feel? Do you feel it helps you?
Honestly, coach, I'm just excited about it, right? So oftentimes I'm not like sitting there like, glued to I'm in my dojo doing working out and doing stuff and I've got it playing on the screen and then I'll stop and kind of watch. And so to me it's almost like an osmosis thing, not a I'm not trying to take something away from it specifically that's going to give me some advantage. I'm just like trying to absorb more about the lesson outside of the gym.
I don't think it's necessarily wrong. I think it depends on the individual as well. Sometimes people learn more through feeling. Sometimes people learn more through watching. Some people learn more through listening. Sometimes it's just about, I know myself, for the longest time when I was going to seminars to learn different things in the past, I wasn't trying to learn more techniques. I was trying to learn more details about the different techniques. So when I would see different instructors teach it, I was trying to look for those little takeaway things that would make a big difference. So, if you're not cramming your head with stuff, but you're looking for those little takeaways, I think that's a strength. And if it's making you passionate about teaching, I think the students will feel that. So that sounds like a positive as well.
Thank you.
Professor, to answer your question for my journey with it, and I really appreciate you asking. Initially, I found that there was too much disparate information in BJJ. With karate, there was a more clear path of these katas come in a certain order, and then you'll grow out from that pathway. But with BJJ, I was very confused. And by the time I was a blue belt, I had the right rank relative to others who were blue belts, but I didn't know what I was doing. And I just said, I actually don't want more information. I just need to get better at maintaining position and trying to implement one or two submissions. Then, once I started to be able to understand a picture, then I was watching the YouTube videos at night because I could understand why and what was happening in a kind of an infotainment way, but I could look for it the next day. Now, I'll tell
Yeah.
you though, coach, I just got my brown a little bit ago and I was talking to one of my coaches and I was sort of like, man, I'm feeling like good but not great. And he said to me something that goes a bit to what you're talking about. And he goes, it's time for you to start doing less. Like hone your killer game where everybody knows you're going to do this, this, and this and can't stop you. He goes, every one of us in here have that. Like you can't do all of it as well as you can do your game and then know the other stuff. And so I've sort of come back around to less again, like that blue belt me. So that's my take on it. I love watching this stuff though, but there's times where I can't because it's like I don't know what I would do with this tomorrow, so I can't watch it. This
Bruce Lee,
was, yeah, go ahead.
sorry. Bruce Lee said that as well. Fear the man who does, don't fear the man who can do 10,000 kicks once. Fear the man who does one kick 10,000 times. And I agree with what your instructor said as far as being able to do more with less. But to be able to do more with less, you actually need to know more. You need to know more in depth about less. So I find that when you first start learning BJJ, I remember myself as a blue belt, it's like, oh, I know so much. And I knew so many techniques on the surface, but I couldn't go in depth on those techniques.
Mm.
So I feel like if you're going to work with less, then you should know those specific techniques more in depth, more ways to enter, more ways to control, when the person's starting to escape it, the little transitions you make to maintain control and maintain contact, and setups and so on and so forth. But you're right. You look at champions like Roger Gracie, who did the same thing to everybody. They knew what he was going to do, and all they can really do is watch him do it.
Mm.
It helps that he was a 6'4" monster, but I mean,
Well, I would be more specific about what parts of my game I'm working on, but I'm going to be rolling with Sensei Dauphin and Sensei Suino this weekend, and I'm rusty, so I'm giving up no advantages. But here's a question I want to ask you, and this is one we had prepared because I was very curious, and then we will go around the horn on this. But a lot of what you're talking about, maybe you've touched on, but how do you balance learning techniques with sparring experience? Because we know that both matter.
how do you balance it? I think, again, I think everything's a personal journey. I think there are some people who, and depending on your experience as well, there's some people who really need to drill things a lot to be able to teach their body to be fluid at it and to get really good at the weight transfers that allow them to be fluid at it. And there's some people who can do something once and then actually apply it in a live role against really good people. And I think that has a lot to do with the individual, and obviously an athlete who just has an ability to move better than somebody who's a little less athletic. That might be the advantage. Maybe somebody who's just a little bit more intellectual, who has a better understanding of things, might be able to learn things a little bit faster. I think you need to find that proper balance for yourself. My son used to drill a lot, and I hear about this ecological jiu-jitsu where they're just getting people to play games, and through the games, people are learning. And I think there's a lot of merit to that type of training. I know one of our other black belts, who's very well known in the BJJ industry, really believes in it. And I really think that if you have a lot of knowledge, that those types of training are a really good opportunity to try and bring your skill level up to your knowledge level. But if everybody learned that way and they never actually learn the techniques and learn how to explain and learn the details, well, when you become a teacher, how are you going to share that information unless you've developed the understanding that goes with the abilities that you're picking up? So I don't know. This is still relatively new. I've given it some thought. I downloaded 4 books on the subject. I started one, so I still have a lot to read about to try and learn and understand it. I don't want to shoot any methods down. Anything that makes training better, I'm for. We went to do a training in the States where we did those types of trainings. It's definitely a lot more fun than drilling. But then coming from my background where I had a plethora of things that I could practice during these specific drills, maybe the area that I'm seeing it from may be different from somebody who's starting out. I don't know. It's a difficult question to answer. I don't think anything is the same for everybody else. I know with us, we try and keep for our blue belts moving up, we try and keep one subject for about a month so that the students get a long enough period of time to work at it, that their understanding by the end of the month is pretty good, and that their physical ability to do it is quite good. And usually if we do something like that, they really get good at 12 different things throughout the year. And then we can continue to build off those things where the knowledge can go more in depth. So I think working on something long enough to actually understand and develop those skills is better. A lot of instructors, what they do is they just try and entertain with new techniques every class, but how's anybody going to learn something if you're always just showing new stuff every class?
Really appreciate that. Sensei Suino, I'm going to ask you the same question, balancing technique versus sparring, especially since, in my mind, you're the one who introduced the pressure testing term, at least to me. But before we do that, did you find after judo that BJJ was not as tough as everybody says? I wanted to ask you, but I didn't want to interrupt him a few minutes ago.
Boy, that's a tough question because it was so organic. I mean, we have grappling in judo, so I've been doing some form of this grappling, since 1968, a long time. Um, what I found was maybe the first year of encountering people who had BJJ experience, it was kind of mind blowing because they had angles and specific details that I had never seen in judo grappling. It was just that much more evolved. And so I would do something that was pretty predictable in judo, and they would move in a way that I just didn't understand. So it wasn't terrifying or hard or insurmountable. It was just crazy, right? And it took a year and a half or so to start understanding how that moved, and then I actually started pursuing knowledge in BJJ. I started going to seminars and training with more BJJ people, and now I've been doing that for whatever 20 years. But yeah, the first year or so was crazy. It was like going somewhere where they speak a slightly different language,
Mm.
right? And not quite understanding it.
And then what about how do you balance technique versus sparring?
Well, I'm mostly a teacher these days, but I do like to train, as you know. Um, if I'm giving out a recipe, I think a good class has after the warm-ups about 20% basics, um, about 30% drilling, maybe more than that, 30, 35, 40% basics, and then the rest of it should be some form of play, pressure testing, rondori sparring, free practice. So that kind of balance. I don't think all one or all the other is good. I think it has to be organized so that students stay interested and learn, and they have a chance to learn something and then apply it. And then a couple of my black belts teach a class where they learn something, apply it, and then they go back and they do that in several cycles in one class. And I actually think that's better than what I do. But once I start rolling, I really it's hard to stop until the bell rings.
Right.
Yeah.
Sensei Dolphin, what about you?
I have an interesting perspective on this. I'm going to just speak from my own perspective. I do agree with what Coach Guillemette said, lots of different people. So if I'm just going to give you like a carte blanche answer, I would say your teacher knows and you don't know, and they're going to strike the balance for you. You don't need to worry about how much you drill or how much you fight or how much you warm up because somebody with a bigger picture than you knows what you need more than what you know. So just going back to the same answer we always say, find a great coach, find a great teacher, get on the mat as much as you possibly can, and then do what they tell you to do as much as you possibly can. And so when I started in karate, I don't know, like I just did what Sensei Legacy told me. He said, "Okay, do your basics, do them harder, punch harder, fix this block. Your stance is not right. Okay, now we're gonna work on this with a partner. Okay, now you're gonna fight this person, you're gonna fight these five people in a row." And I don't know, I don't want to say I was a robot, but I liked it all, so I just did what Sense Legacy told me to do. I started BJJ as a 50-year-old, so um, and I had lots of martial arts experience, so I kind of attacked it from a different angle, Sean, right? Not when I got out of my car before I went in the gym, I just said, you're not a seventh degree black belt here. You're a white belt. So just go in here and learn and try and apply these techniques. And so sometimes we drill, sometimes we fight a lot. But the one thing I try and do is so, like I said, this week we've been working on half guard. So as soon as we start fighting, I start trying to do stuff with those lessons that were given to me. I don't switch and start trying to do the things that I want to do. I'm like, we're working on half guard this week. How can I get myself into half guard and how can I start using that? And inevitably on the Monday I suck, right? I'm getting crushed down. By the time you get to Friday, I still suck, but maybe I had a couple of little victories as I was doing it. I got myself into the position a little easier and did a little better. Where I let that maybe go is when I go to open mat. When I go to an open mat, I just allow myself to do what I want to do, right? But I always try and go in with something that I want to work on, um, even at open mat. I want to try and play top more, or I want to be on the bottom more. I don't just go in and let some bigger brown belt start slamming me around and try and react to that,
Yeah.
which that happens too. But I usually have a plan that's not working at that point. So
I mean, I love what you just said. There's nothing that makes me happier than if I can pull off move of the day. If I can pull off move of the day, that means that I'm staying within the lesson and sparring. Hanchi Legacy, what about you? How have you balanced as both a student and a teacher the technique and training that, but also sparring?
Well, understand in my view, understanding is the key word in martial arts. So I think everybody actually covered that without saying what I just said. Is and then I read something. These are not the exact words, but somewhere on somewhere it says the advanced way of training is doing basics, right? And if you know the basics, if you know your basics, uh, then you can pretty well do everything else. So you have to understand your basics and use them, and ask a lot of questions because um, we don't. Sometimes the instructor doesn't know what you're lacking, because sometimes you may not show it, or so if you the more you at the beginning you're on your white belt, you listen to your sensei, and then as you go along in your belt, you should be asking questions so that you can grow yourself because usually the classes consists of 20, 30, 40 people, so you're trying to get all that in an hour and a half, so you should ask a lot of questions. um I had another I had written something here. There. Anyway, I'll just tell you this. Yeah, um, the sport part of karate gets you started into your fighting. I had a friend who I trained with in karate. His name was John Pearson, and he was willing to take karate to another level with me. We used to lock ourselves in a not lock ourselves, but we go to a 15-15 room with boxing gloves and did our karate. But we had we didn't have the karate equipment they have now. We used to be here. But we put boxing gloves in and went into a room. And when we left, that room was wet. The walls, the ceiling was just dripping off. And we didn't look too pretty after that. We get black eyes, broken noses sometimes, not fingers, but toes and stuff like that. You need to find somebody who wants to take karate to another level. Just playing points like that um, doesn't make you tough. A lot of fights I've seen is the first time the guy gets hit with a good punch, he quits, cowers, doesn't want to fight anymore. Get used to getting hurt and then fight back. So that's where John Pearson and I went. We brought each other to that next level. And then we got better after that because we knew what counted, we knew what didn't count. So you're actually, like what you said, we didn't need those other things. We just needed the things that happened during a fight.
Thanks, Hanchi. Speaking of boxing gloves, Professor Guillemette, talk to us about your boxing matches, your boxing record, and also very interested to hear about the Vale Tudo, and any other competitions you want to talk about.
Yeah, it's a long time ago. Boxing, I think I was 12-1. My last match, I definitely lost against a much older, much more skilled and talented opponent. I don't think I've ever taken such a beating in my life. So don't want you to think that I quit boxing because I moved, or because of that. It's because I moved. But I wasn't the most skilled boxer, but I hit really, really hard and I was fast. So I think that's one of the reasons why I did so well in my first matches and why they had such a hard time finding somebody in my age group to match me up with, which is why I ended up with, I was 14, my opponent was 21. So smallest, skinniest guy I ever went against, but also the most talented by far.
And
And in mixed martial arts at the time, my last match was 20 some odd years ago. The skill level back then wasn't that high. I had a background of 6 years of boxing, 7 years of kickboxing. I had a brown belt in judo, red belt in taekwondo. I think I was a purple belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu at the time, a black belt in Kenryu. In EPN, we did a lot of ground stuff as well. So I felt like I could just go to wherever the person was weak. It didn't feel like it was even fair at the time.
huh. And
For
how many
the
of
other
those matches
person,
did
but
you do?
31.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I won 30 in less than a minute, but won all 31. And
Wow.
then did some sport jiu-jitsu as well. I think I won all of them in my weight category in the sport jiu-jitsu, which was similar to an amateur MMA, except for against Bagni, who ended up being one of my Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructors down the road. And at the end of those things, so it was a tournament style thing that we were doing. And I'm just trying to remember the details. And you would win your weight category. So they had lightweight and heavyweight. So I'd win the lightweight category, and then the winner of the heavyweight and the lightweight would fight for $500 at the end. And one of those matches, I think I herniated a disc in my lower back, I think in my second match in my weight category. And I thought I'd pulled the muscle, so I tried to keep it warm throughout. So I won my weight category. And then I ended up going against this 240-pound judo black belt. Had him in a position to do an armbar at one point, but I refused to try and put my leg over his head. I was afraid I was going to get stacked. So I just defended for the rest of that match. And anyways, it was a learning experience. I was asked afterwards, I think it was Serge Laflamme who had asked me, he was going into that match, did you think you were going to win? I don't know. Like, it's just, I think we just need to keep testing ourselves, right? And I apologize earlier, you had asked a question about breaking down the training. I completely misunderstood the question. Most of our classes are half technique and half live training. Sometimes some of that live training will be specifically on specific positions. So in live training, you can't always work what you want to work because you have to get to those positions to be able to practice it. So when we're working on specific things, some of the live training will start in specific positions, but then the training is live after that as well. So that was the answer that I should have given you earlier, but I misunderstood your question.
I appreciate that, but none of us take it that way. Sometimes we will answer questions from a different framework, and there's no actual right one. It's just how we're thinking about it individually. So I appreciate both your answers, Professor.
Not a problem.
Yeah. I want to ask you about this, but first, can we just confirm that, all humility aside, you're 31-0 as a full contact MMA fighter?
Yes.
Yeah.
But again, it wasn't really fair back then because of the background that I had.
Yeah. You trained longer, harder,
it-
with more technique.
But it would be very different if I had been competing against modern athletes. The level of skill is so much higher now, and everybody's more well-rounded, whereas people who were doing it back then were more specialists in one domain. And even then, a lot of the martial arts weren't attracting athletes at the time, whereas a lot of the guys who are doing mixed martial arts now would have been athletes in other sports. So it's a very, very different thing.
Appreciate that. Question for you before we get to the 10 questions, and maybe you want to take a little more time with this, but you've talked about some health issues. You've talked about the pinched nerve. I believe you said the stroke and then the herniated disc. Talk about training over a lifetime with what could be some pretty significant health issues.
I think it's one of the things that kept me going. I think with some injuries, when you stop moving, you seize up, everything gets worse. I think when you develop a lifestyle that's built out of movement, that even with injuries, I feel like it's part of what keeps you healthy. I know when I herniated the disc, at the time, doctors were saying to not do anything. Well, no, I was getting my daughter to help me put my boots on in the morning. I'd get up, I'd go to work, install furnaces all day long. Towards the end of the day, I was in much less pain than I was at the beginning of the day. Um, I don't remember how long I had stopped training to partially let that heal. Again, it's a long, long time ago in my memory. I remember stories better than I actually remember memories. Um, but I think you need to keep moving. And even with the stroke, with the martial arts, you learn that everything is just the next challenge. So when I had to relearn how to walk, when I had to relearn how to do jujitsu, I was paralyzed on the left side when it occurred. The physiotherapist said that I was the first person she'd ever seen with such a severe stroke walk to his first physio appointment, which was kind of a bit of an achievement. But in the hospital, the nurses didn't like it because they actually had to sit somebody at the end of my bed to stop me from trying to get up and try and relearn how to walk. Apparently, I was falling down a lot, but I have no recollection of that.
Hmm.
I remember the first time when I wanted to get up to go to the washroom, I was told to use the bedpan. It's like, why? She goes, because you could fall and break a hip. I was 46 at the time. It's like, what do you mean I could fall and break a hip? She goes, you've taken several falls already. Like, okay. And the blood thing is just because I have a blood disorder where my blood clots more than most people. So it's a low protein C issue. So if anybody has that, you might want to talk to your doctor and make sure that if you need to be on blood thinners, that you get on blood thinners.
Is that does that have anything to do with the stroke or
Yeah, that's what caused the stroke. It caused 3 heart attacks this year and pulmonary edema. I went for a 12-hour hike with 3 young guys, or 3 or 4. 3 young guys earlier this year. It was 40 degrees. We went fasted, and I couldn't catch my breath on that last hill about 8 hours in. I was so relieved to find out 2 weeks later that I had a clot in my lung because I couldn't, like, it hurt my ego more than it hurt my ability to breathe, I think. Yeah, I think we're idiots. I heard about what you want to do. I don't, it's like, what, he doesn't want to make it to 66?
Thanks for that, Professor. So it is time for your 10 questions. We ask all
Yes,
our
sir.
guests the 10 questions. Sometimes they're a little different than others, but everybody gets 10 within 10 minutes. So we ask that you answer impulsively, but feel free to expand on your answer. And there's no goal for finishing faster, but you only have 10 minutes. So if you want to use one question's worth for 10 minutes, you can do that, or however you want to break it down. Are you all set?
Yes, sir.
Sensei Dolphin's got the clock. Question 1. What is your favorite martial arts technique?
Favorite technique? Probably strangulations.
Who is the most influential martial artist in your life?
Whew, that's a hard one. Right now, the person who has the biggest influence on me would probably be my son.
Right on.
Worst answer.
Who do you think is the most influential martial artist alive in the world today?
Well, that's hard because they all influence you in different ways. I had the privilege of training under both Hanshi and Hanshi Tagien and Jean-Yves Thériault, 2 of the nicest people I've ever met. And honestly, had the opportunity to train with GSP, with Marcelo Garcia. And what I've noticed about all of these guys who are some of the best at what they do in the world is how genuine, how generous they are. And I think maybe it gives you something to constantly strive for. But I can't name one person. There are too many amazing people out there. Too many people that have affected me in too much of a positive way.
What's your favorite martial arts
Sorry.
movie? Why?
Favorite martial arts movie? Oh, Jesus. Really enjoyed Perfect Weapon back in the day. Obviously, Enter the Dragon, Bruce Lee. Uh, uh, Most of the ones that involve my martial arts are really horrible movies. Yeah, I'd have to go with those ones. Some of the classics, I guess.
Love that. What do you think is the best thing that martial arts has done for the world?
I think in a world where there's so much anger and hate and lack of self-control, I think the people who are probably the most in control of their emotions, or at least, if not their emotions, in control of what they do when they're put into a bad situation. I think that's one of the things that martial arts will teach us, that we don't have to necessarily act on our emotions, that that maybe we can stop and think and not go where our emotions want us to go with it. So I honestly think that a well-trained person is probably the least likely person to get into a physical fight, because most of us don't have anything to prove. And most of us have been in enough serious training environments that we understand that, like war, nobody wins in a fight, just one person loses more than the other.
Appreciate that. And not to interrupt your time, but for anyone watching and for you as well, we did have Jeff Speakman, The Perfect Weapon. And I just looked that up real quick, episode 165, if anyone wants to hunt down that episode. What advice, Professor, would you give to your younger self?
You did a good job by marrying the woman you married. Because I think she was probably the key to success in everything I've done in my life.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you get there?
These are difficult questions. Welcome in.
That's what Sense of Legacy said.
I mean, I hope so.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
I mean, if I'm looking at five of us, my odds are the worst, so we'll go from there. If none of the arts that you've spent real time training existed, what art would you like to spend your life training?
If none of the arts that I've trained in existed,
Yeah.
geez. Well, since I met Hanchi Borkowski and a lot of his crew, I think I really would have enjoyed becoming adept in karate. I think that's something that I don't think it's something I would have become good at, but I think it's something that I would have enjoyed training. Again, I've got short limbs, long upper body, so a lot of target, not a lot of reach. Flexibility is not probably the best of my the words aren't coming to me. I think fatigue is starting to set in. I'm not the most flexible person in the world. Back in my Taekwondo days, I could do the splits, but I felt like there was too much tension in my body, so it held back a lot of my speed. But I feel like it's something that I would have really enjoyed.
Right on.
I really enjoyed the Taekwondo days as well. So out of the martial arts that I haven't done, karate would be probably the one.
There's more qualified men than me on this call, but I think you'd have made a fine karate man. I don't think you'd have had a lot of limits. Our last two questions come as a pair. What is your greatest achievement and what is your greatest regret?
Greatest achievement by far is my family. Greatest regret by far is not always being the best version of myself. So I feel like when we get exposed to a lot of negatives, we do the best that we can to be the best person we can possibly be. Unfortunately, by pushing that stuff down, it sometimes comes out with the people you care about the most. So sometimes the worst version of yourself comes out with the people that it should come out with the least. If that's the most honest answer I can give.
Well, we appreciate that. Sensei Suino, before we go back to him, I just see you nodding to that answer. You know, anything you want to add or think about with that?
Well, that resonates with me, and I've said that too on the call. Is that uh, I am not always the best version of myself with the people I'm closest to, and it's interesting how that works. There's some vulnerability or something that you have there, but I'm working on it, and I'm sure Professor Guillemette is working on it as well.
Of
And
course.
it's a blessing to still have the opportunity to get better.
Well put, Sensei Suino. Professor, absolutely appreciate the fatigue, and we're not going to keep you much longer, but I want to ask you what I think is a very important question, and it's something
Sure.
you just got to yourself, which is talk to us about your son and talk to us about that relationship in and outside of the martial arts.
No, we were very close when he was young. Drifted apart a little bit when he was a teenager, um, and then became very, very close again now. So he's actually taking over the dojo. My wife just retired in October, so I'm still teaching, still training, but he's like we've just put the shares in his name. He's taking everything over. He's a very, very talented, kind, empathetic monster of a young man who's turning 24 tomorrow. And I don't know. I'm just blessed. Just blessed. Both my kids. My daughter's 8 years older. She's has two beautiful kids. She's very successful in her own right in very different things. They have a beautiful family. I know. I just feel blessed. Um, I couldn't ask for a better family, including my sisters, all of her kids, all of their kids. We travel with my sisters and their husbands on a regular basis as well. So I don't know. I just consider myself to be one of the luckiest people on the planet. The only thing I'd like to add to what we were saying earlier about the whole anger thing, I heard this just recently for several times. Is this guy's walking with a cup of coffee and somebody bumps into him and he spills the coffee, and the question that was asked was, why did he spill his coffee? And of course, the general answer is because somebody bumped into him. It's like, no, it's because there was coffee in the cup. If there was orange juice in the cup, he would have spilled the orange juice. If there was water in the cup, he would have spilled the water. The moral of the story basically being is the reason why the anger comes out with the people that's closest to us is because we bottle that anger down. And I guess when something happens, that's what comes out. So as Sensei Suino was saying, of course, I'm working on it. I'm trying to figure out ways to not bottle anger when things happen, still stay calm and deal with it, but not bottle it, not keep it inside. So
Appreciate that.
just wanted to share that. If that helps one person, then great. I'm not even sure that it helped me yet because I still have to put it to practice.
It's something that does come up on the show a lot, but tonight's about you. We've just talked about the simple honesty of humankind, but also the martial arts can traditionally be tough men. And the idea that you're just speaking so plainly about your desire to have less anger, it's a really beautiful thing for anybody who's hearing it. And I'm sure more than one person will be helped by that.
Yeah, and for the most part, I'm not really that angry. Just with the wrong people. And I think that's the problem. I think if you learn to control yourself with everybody else, maybe that's where you push the anger down. I don't know the answer how to deal with this. If you guys come up with an answer, please give me a call.
Sure.
Train, go train. Then the anger's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, the training definitely helps. My wife usually has a list of places that I can train when we go on holidays.
Nice.
Yeah.
I told you she's the best.
Nice.
Um, and it being your son aside, how did it feel to put those shares to someone else for your club?
How did it feel? It's hard. I think everything's a transition. I remember when I hurt my neck and the doctor said that I could lose the use of my arm if I didn't retire from competing. Um, it hurt to not be able to compete. But then I became a coach, and then I didn't really feel as old as I did as an athlete because you can be an older coach. So that transition from athlete to coach, and then over time I realized that that was an opportunity to become a better coach. So instead of looking at the negative of what I couldn't do anymore, I tried to focus on the positive of what I could because that's all you have. Like that's all you can do, right? And now it's the same thing. It's like went from being an athlete to a coach. I've been a business owner for most of my life, and now it's like I think you see this with a lot of professional athletes when they retire, they lose their identity, and I think we just have to move on to what's that next thing? What am I now? And just it's just the next challenge. So, but the opportunity now is I get to spend a lot of time with my favorite person in the world, which is my wife. So life is good. And then we're both involved with the club, so we're actually probably spending more time at the club, all of us together now than before. And now my grandson's doing judo on Saturdays too, so it's pretty cool.
Sounds really wonderful.
I don't know if I went off on a tangent there, but again, I told you fatigue is slowly starting to set in. So
Well, we're gonna say thanks to our team. So I'd like to say thanks to Robert Schlumsky, Justin Shea, Andre Sadashev, Josh Kitchens, Cristiano Landel, Dridi Giuliani, Stavros Stavroulias, and Emily Ruth Driscoll posting about the shows, getting everything out there online so y'all know about it, helping us run the behind the scenes. We really appreciate it. And the way we like to say goodnight, Professor, is we do what we call around the horn. So we'll start with Hanchi and then Sensei Suino and Sensei Ofan, then myself, and the last word will go to you. So we're just going to talk a little bit about our time tonight, and then you'll say goodnight.
that's good. Thank you.
Hanchi Legacy, what do you want to say about our time?
Yeah, it was a good time. It's very interesting how you moved around and you had some problems in life, but you overcame that. And it was good to see you tonight. And I guess we'll see you at Capital Conquest.
Looking forward to it, sir.
Have a good night. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hanchi. Sensei Suino?
Thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed this conversation. Uh, I can't remember how long it's been. I met you several years ago at one of Hunchitarian's events, and I've been on your mat several times. Always learned something. But I've been struck on the mat and in this conversation just about how genuine you are and humble for somebody who's really had an amazing life, and you've had a lot of accomplishments. You get a lot of credit in my book for doing three martial arts that I love very, very much: judo, jujitsu, and BJJ. And you've become damn good at them as well. Really cool. Thanks for coming on. Can't wait to see you at the next event. And if you're teaching, I'll be on your mat.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Happy
Sensei.
birthday.
Thank you.
Sensei Ofan?
Coach Guillemette, listen, I also didn't say at the beginning in the intro. Um, Coach Guillemette's like an enigma for this show. We have been hounding him literally for like 3 years to come on. I think we just finally got the submission today. Today is finally, we finally wore him down and got him on the show, and it has been great. I have loved every second of it. I like in the beginning, you said something that was like very interesting. You said BJJ and then judo, and in this art, it's this. If you do this, you get points. In this art, you lose. It's really interesting when you think about the rule sets of different arts and how that makes you train and work in a certain direction. And I thought about rule sets a lot, but I never thought about them that specifically. So that was something that I found really interesting right off the hop. Um, you training BJJ before like it was even kind of a known thing. That's why I asked you about Professor Schemmelhorn. But I also want to say it sounds like Sensei Legacy when he started in karate, right? Like having to go to New York City to learn something from somebody and drive to this other place. So it always just ends up being some version of the same story when something comes out, when it comes to the martial arts anyway. Um, 12-1 as a boxer, and the one loss is as a 14-year-old against a 21-year-old. And yeah, I'm sure he was super skilled, and I'm sure everything you said is true, but you were still 14 and he was still 21. So um, um, there's a big difference there, and good on you for even getting in there. Again, you're very humble about your MMA record of 31 and 0, 30 wins in the first minute, and you saying that's why you felt it was unfair. But I tell my students all the time, the opponent you have to take the most serious is the one who's willing to engage with you. They're the one, if somebody's willing to fight you, whether it's an old woman or whoever it is, those 31 people all got in the ring with you and they wanted to do to you what you did to them. So 31 and 0 is still 31 and 0, no matter how you chalk it up, in my opinion. Um, After you had your stroke, you said something when you were talking about that. Everything is just the next challenge. Well, isn't that true, right? Like everything is just the next challenge unless you choose not to move forward and just stay where you are. So, because you're moving forward in life, everything is the next challenge. Favorite technique, strangulation. Again, you talk so much about your family, most influential in your life, your son, most influential alive today. You talked about my personal hero, Jean-Yves Thériault, Hunchy Therian, somebody that we all know and love here. And I think you wrapped it up nicely by saying these people are all like genuine and generous with their time. And this is also very true. I agree with you. Um, Sean robbed me when you said perfect weapon. I was like, yeah, you're in good company because Jeff Speakman was on this show with us. So now you're in company with your favorite martial arts movie star, or movie, I guess. Uh, you said something when it was best for the world. You said, control the emotions, but you also said in a fight, no one wins. Somebody just loses more, right?
Yeah.
That's another good soundbite for people to listen to, right? Nobody wins a fight. Somebody just loses more than the other person. Um, um, Advice to your young self: pick this good wife that you already have, right? Like don't screw that up. I love that. In heaven, welcome. Just like Sense Legacy said that, as I said. Um, Everybody always says, "Oh, if there's no art," and they always say judo, and then Sense Suino gets to like flex. And it was so nice today for somebody to say karate and to be able to go, "Yeah," right. So thanks for doing that, Coach. That was really good. Um, Achievement, your family, like I think it's so awesome how grateful you are and how you feel blessed for your family. I agree with you. You are blessed for having that family. Um, and your biggest regret is not always being the best version of yourself. We all suffer from that. We just don't recognize it as you do. Um, Sean didn't give me the time to say that you got through your 10 questions in 7 minutes and 11 seconds. So you had 2 minutes and 49 seconds to expand. And I think if you expanded, we would have got more wisdom from you. Like yourself, I train with my entire family. My wife is on this call. She's watching. She trains. She comes to the gym. Two of my daughters train. Actually, one of my daughters has been on your mat before, Sydney. And you've seen both of my daughters at Capital Conquest. They're the two really beautiful young black belts who who, who you see running around. They're the best two looking young female black belts running around at Capital Conquest.
Sure.
Um,
They take after your wife.
they take after my wife, not for me, for sure. But both of my sons train too, and I'm really excited to train with that. And like you, my son is like about 7 inches taller than me and weighs like about 190 pounds now. So, big, strong guy. Um, and I love my wife like you love your wife. So I've found some new common ground with you tonight, Coach, which I'm happy about. You said about being grateful and lucky. You said it so many times. And I think it's very interesting that a person who's had strokes, blood disorders, these multiple injuries, not being able to walk, many people most people would probably be, my life sucks. I've been done wrong. There's so many problems with me. I had to stop training. Um, but you just keep saying how lucky you are and how grateful you are. And the last thing I want to say is I really coach like the way you think. You have very deep thoughts. There's no surface thinking in the answers that you give. Very thoughtful, very deep, which leaves more room for us to contemplate and build on those thoughts. So this has been a great show, and I've really enjoyed having you on here. And I'm happy we just kept hammering away at you until you relented and came on. So thank you so much.
I think it was just a timing thing. Had you set a date earlier, we would have done it much sooner.
Thanks, Sensei Dauphin.
I
I just want to
apologize
say
for
how
that.
excited I am. Oh, not at
Oh no,
all.
no apologies. No.
We're just playing. I cannot wait to see you on the mats in just over a month. And I just want to say that we have an idea in common. I'm the luckiest person I know, and I know that you're the luckiest person you know, and both can be true. And I appreciate that we share that. How do you want to say goodnight?
I just want to thank you guys for having me on. Hopefully, I was able to not make too much of a fool of myself. This isn't something I do on a regular basis. Hopefully, some of the stuff that I said will be helpful in one way or another. Really enjoyed this very much. And I guess I neglected, you had mentioned about how proud I was of my son. Clearly, I'm just as proud of my daughter, just in different ways. My wife doesn't train, but everybody's more afraid of her than they are of anybody else at the club. I don't know why it is, including the instructors. Everybody's afraid of that woman, yet she's the nicest person I know. Thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate and respect all of you, and anybody who does what we do. I think it's just a search and becoming a better version of ourselves, right?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Senseis, for co-hosting and for allowing me to be part of this. And thank you, everybody, for watching.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great night.